Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to build a new alcohol stove. I'm pretty sure I invented this stove. There's always that chance that someone else had the same idea I did before I did. If you come across one, send it to me in the comments. I'll take my video down, edit my video, whatever it takes to give them credit. Now, just like last time I put up a video of me building a stove, I kind of had the same criteria. I want to be able to build the stove out of a single can, or it doesn't have to be a soda can, it can be any kind of can, but let's just face it, soda cans are easy to come by and easy to work with. But other than just being able to build it out of one can, it needs to have an included pot stand. And I don't like the idea of that pot stand being detachable. I want the stove to all be one piece so that you don't have to worry about losing part of it. Now I'm going to wait till the end of the video when I'm done building it to show you what this stove looks like, but let's face it, if you clicked on this video, you probably saw the thumbnail, and I'm most likely going to use a picture of this stove as my thumbnail, so you got a good idea what it looks like. Now I'm going to be winging it just a little bit. I'm not taking any precise measurements. I've built this stove dozens of times, and I've built it a dozen different ways. I'm not sure what the most efficient version of this stove is. I'm not sure what version of this stove gives you the fastest boiling time. I haven't really tested that yet, but I can tell you the stove works. It's as efficient as any other DIY stove, and it's pretty simple to build and a lot of fun. So we're going to start with this energy drink can. Now this is the brand of Celsius energy drinks, but the medium-sized Red Bull can, I think those Truly seltzers, or pretty much any seltzer, comes in a similar size can. Now, if you saw my last stove build video, you probably remember I used a little block of wood to make my measurements with. Since I don't know the precise measurements that make this stove the most efficient, I'm just going to kind of wing it with something I found around the house. I'm going to use this socket out of my toolbox. You might also remember from my last video, I used a tool to poke holes in the can with. It was an awl for jewelry making. I have no idea what I did with that thing. A thumbtack works, a nail works, but today what I'm using is, I forget what this little tool is called, but you use it in sewing to tear stitches out. Now also, you may remember I used a razor knife. I have no idea what I did with my razor knife. Instead of spending all day looking for it, I just found this pack of blades. I'm just going to use the blade without the handle. If you're doing the same thing I'm doing here, be careful, don't cut yourself. Also, good pair of scissors, and you might end up needing some kind of ruler or something to measure with. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's see how this sucker's built. All right, so for the first step, we're gonna have to remove the bottom of the can. I'm gonna use this socket to measure with. The socket's about 1.5 inches tall. So to start cutting, we press the blade down firmly on top of the socket. We press the can up against the point, and we start rotating. Now you can see I've scored a line that goes all the way around the can. It's not all the way through, but it's created a weak spot where the can will tear pretty easy. Now don't go ahead and tear the bottom off yet. This next step is a lot easier if you leave the can mostly intact until you're done with this next step. We're gonna do the same thing to the top of the can that we just did to the bottom of the can, except we need to cut the top off slightly shorter than the bottom. So for that, I'm using this slightly shorter socket. In this case, it's about 3/4 of an inch. All right, you see there, I've got a pretty good line scored all the way around. Now, it's just a matter of flexing the can, kind of bending it a little bit until you get it to tear. Just kind of push with your thumb right around where that line is. Eventually, you'll find a good weak spot and it will rip right through. Oh, there we go. See, to finish it, all I gotta do is just kind of press And then when you get to the end, fold it up, break it off. Same thing to the bottom. When you get near the end, fold it up, gives you a nice clean break. Now for this next step, we need to cut this inner circle out of the top of the can. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be pressing the tip of the razor up against this ridge and rotating the can so that the blade runs right along that ridge. So you can see clearly which ridge I'm talking about. Not in here, this side. All right, you may see here where I messed up and I nicked the can with the blade. Since I didn't go too deep, that's actually gonna work out just fine. If I had gone much deeper than that, I'd probably be starting over with a new can right now. But we've got the line scored around there pretty good. So now you just press on that with your thumb and you'll see it just starts busting right out. Just about perfectly round. That's what you want. Now we can go ahead and take our sewing tool or your thumbtack or whatever you're using and start poking holes. You want the holes to be right here in this area. Now on this stove, I have found the more holes, the better it works, as long as they're small holes. So I put them about every 1/8 of an inch, maybe every 1/4 of an inch at the most. Now I'm gonna go through every one of those holes and kind of twist it out, open it up just a little bit. All right. So now we're at the point where we need to cut the can and unroll it. I like to use the line along the nutrition facts as a guide to help me cut a nice straight line. Guys, you'll have to excuse how shaky I am on the camera. These things have a lot of caffeine in them, and I just drank one after having 2 cups of coffee already this morning, and I don't recommend that. All right, for this next step, we need a strip of metal cut out of this little sheet that's 1/2 inch wide. So what I'm gonna do is take my ruler here. I'm gonna get 1/2 inch. And since I don't have a marker to mark with, I'm just gonna poke a little hole in it right there. That's my marker. And same thing right there. So what I'll do is hold that ruler down really tight and then it moved. All right, didn't move bad. And then push that against it to make kind of a crease there. Makes a nice line you can follow with your scissors. So now you take that little strip you just cut, and it's gonna wanna roll back up into a ring, which is fine. And you place it inside this little channel in the top piece. Just so you can see, we're making sure that it seats down right in this area. Once you're sure it fits really well, grip it where they overlap. Take your scissors, make a little snip about halfway up the ring. All right, this does two things. It creates a little vent, but it also creases the two pieces of metal together so it'll hold this same basic shape. Now that you have that, go ahead and cut a few more vents around the rest of it. Again, excuse my shakiness. And then you fold those back the same way to create some little triangle shaped vents. Now what these vents do is they allow the alcohol to flow from the middle of the stove to the outer ring of the stove, which is where all the fun stuff happens. All right, so once you've got that done, you got the 4 vents cut into it. Place that back in that ring I talked about earlier, that little channel. You take the bottom part of your can we cut off in the first step, and you press it onto the top. Now you still have to press it a little farther by hand. So carefully use your thumb to press down on this ring in the middle to try to seat it down on top of the little inner piece. Okay, with just a little bit more effort than normal, I was able to get it to seat down. And now what we do is we fold this down and kind of roll that edge to form a nice tight seal. You can use a pair of pliers for this step, it makes it a lot easier. I'm just trying my best to do it with as few tools as possible this time. If during this step you fold it down and it doesn't go down evenly, just fold it back flat again, unfold the areas around your bad spot, then fold down your bad spot, and then redo the other areas. I have found that usually creates a flatter, smoother fold. All right, you see right here, I've got that point that pokes up. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So unfold that. Unfold the areas around it. And then take your problem area, and when you redo it, make sure that's where you start. That's pretty bad. Now I like to take something plastic, kind of like the handle of this tool, and use that to mash that down when I'm done. It just kind of helps flatten it out, smooth it out, make it look a little nicer. Now you may notice on mine, that is not very flat. Got some high spots and some low spots. On this particular stove, that's not going to matter one bit. Now that we have the bottom part of the stove done, it's time to start on the pot stand. So we take the remaining metal and we lay it down and we fold it in half long. Well, not exactly in half. We leave about 1/8 of an inch on one side so that what you have is a strip there where it's just a single piece of metal, and then from here up, it's 2 pieces of metal. I'll show you why we did that here in a minute. Go ahead and take something flat and hard, like a socket works great. Rub that on the top of that seam. Let's mash it down really nice and flat. Makes a nice sharp edge right there. So now we need to roll this into a cylinder. And when you roll it into that cylinder, this edge needs to be on the inside, like this. Have you ever been videoing something on your phone and you hit the record button and you realize, oh, I just ended a recording. I didn't start a recording. Oh my gosh, has the camera been off this whole time? Well, that happened to me just a few minutes ago. I finished building this stove only to find I didn't catch any of it on camera. So I'm gonna take this back apart and show you what I did. Once you get this thing together, it's hard to pull this thing out. It's kind of like a barb that holds it in there. So just before the camera malfunction, I was rolling this into a cylinder. And what we did was we put that cylinder down inside the stove and used the stove to measure it with. Hold the stove together with your fingers and then cut a slit in it with the scissors. And fold that slit back. Very similar to the way we did the inner ring earlier. I know that's kind of ugly, but it'll work. And then for the other 3 vents, instead of cutting a slit and folding them back, I just cut the triangles out. I have found that having that excess material just cut out of the way makes the assembly process a little easier. Once you have the ring assembled, you just press it right back down into the same place you measured it. You'll find as you press down, it stays in place really well. And what that is, when you cut this ring out of the lid earlier, you'll notice it created kind of a hump, and then you cut it off at the bottom of that hump. And when you slide that metal ring down, it creates kind of a, sort of like a barb. And it really holds that ring in there better than you would expect. Now, once you get that inner ring seated down in the bottom, we're done. You can put fuel in this thing and light it. So we'll do a quick little burn test with this thing just so I can demonstrate how it works. I'm not gonna take the time to see how long it boils or see how long 1 ounce of fuel will burn in this thing. Feel free to experiment with that on your own. I'm just showing you the basics of how the stove was created. Ooh. If that happens to your stove, don't use that stove out on the trail. Don't use it on a picnic table. Never put that stove anywhere near anything flammable. In fact, ball that stove up into a ball, throw it in a trash can. I don't know why it started spitting flames early on. Believe it or not, I have had that happen once before in the dozens of times I built this stove. The only other time it happened was with this stove that I built yesterday. I don't know what the similarities are between this stove and this stove that causes both of those to throw flames when this stove or this stove, neither one do that. So to demonstrate to you what this stove should look like when you light it, I'm gonna light one of my previously built stoves for you. In fact, I'll probably do a couple of them to show you that most of the time that doesn't happen. I promise. All right, once again, I'm about to turn that ventilation fan back on and we're gonna cut the music.
You've just seen a video from Red Bellies and River Rats. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. We're going to be putting out videos on an irregular schedule for a while, so you might want to hit that notification bell to avoid missing the next one. Thanks for watching.
The trail so bright with the sun on our faces, everything feels right. We're pitching our tents under the stars, the campfire burning bright. We're singing and laughing, having the time of our lives. River rats and red bellies, we're living life so free, exploring the wilderness where we're meant to be. With our paddles in hand, we navigate the streams, campfire stories and moonlit dreams. Campfire stories and moonlit dreams, walking down the rivers, watching